coming. I'm going to call the Manchester Community Schools second preliminary determination hearing in 1028 to order. If you'd all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call attendance. Dave Turflinger, I'm here. Mr. Hensley? Here. Mr. Shaw? Present. Mr. Esposette? Here. Mr. Brubaker? Here. Mr. Bucher?
Here.
And Mr. Raymer is absent. And our finance officer, Tanya Himmel, is absent. So, I don't believe we have any emergency additions or deletions for this, please.
No, we do not.
Okay. This time I'll turn it over to Mr. Wheelan.
Okay, this time we're going to have our second preliminary determination hearing and 1028 hearing. This is a combined meeting. I appreciate we have Oscar Gutierrez and Dennis Otten here who have worked with us through this process. And we also have Eric from Garmin Miller, who's our architect that we employed as well. And so I appreciate them coming tonight to help talk through the program or the project that we have. We've had a couple community night meetings. We do have information on our website as far as a video showing the project itself, as well as a video talking about the financial aspect of it. So I'd encourage community members, if you have questions about that, to go to our website and look at that information. The scope of the project is we're looking to secure the entryways at both Manchester Junior Senior High School as well as Manchester Elementary School. And then the other piece is we're looking at building a corridor from Manchester Junior Senior High over to the MAO building. Along that corridor will be a new cafeteria that will service grades 7 through 12 because the original cafeteria was really just built for 9 to 12 and we've exceeded that capacity. As well as when it was built, it really wasn't designed for the type of food production that we currently do. We do a lot more with farm to table, and so we want to create a space that we can prepare that food and serve that food appropriately. The current cafeteria at Junior Senior High School will then be repurposed for a business innovation center, as well as we are looking at creating in that business innovation center an apparel store as well as a coffee shop, two entrepreneurship ventures that our students lead, as well as a space for students to collaborate with each other. So I'm really excited. It's really going to promote some of our academic initiatives through this process, but it's also going to go a long way to secure our buildings and to keep our students safe. So that's the general scope of the project. And so at this time I'll turn it over to Oscar, and we'll talk about the financial side.
Thank you, Board. For the record, Oscar Gutierrez with Boundary Consulting. As many of you guys have seen some of the videos about the financing, the main thing that we want to bring up about this is that under the current structure, the taxes will not go up moving forward. We have discovered since our last meeting that the school district had an operating cash balance for the bonds that exceeded the minimum amount or the maximum amount required by the state. So therefore, a portion of next year's bonds will be paid out of that cash balance, which is roughly around $500,000 of excess funds that are going towards the payment. What that is going to create, thank you, is a slight dip in 2022. So taxes next year are actually going to be going down for 1 year and then coming back to the current rate. So there'll be a small dip, so that should be a good thing for people. But I want to take this opportunity to also remind people that they will go back to the exact same level of this year, the following year. You can see that where it says estimated rate. It's currently at that 53-cent mark. It will drop about 14 cents, or a little slight. I can't do the math here. From 53 cents to 36 cents, and everybody will enjoy a little bit of a tax break. We'll come back roughly to that same level. We'll try to keep it as tight to that 53 cents as possible. If it's, it's going to be 53 or somewhere around that or less. Really, we kind of covered this over and over again, and I think that is the only new piece of information, and I'd like to open up any questions regarding that specific item or the structure or anything that may still be weighing on anybody's mind. I feel that the main points are taxes are staying flat or less than the current level. This structure allows for new projects to come online roughly around 2025, and you can see how that happens when it drops from 50 cents to 43 cents to 29 cents. That is designed for a future board. Could potentially be all the same people, but it could also be a different group of people, to allow them to make decisions at that point in time. So rather than doing all the projects now and eating up all that space, it was designed that way for that future leadership to make decisions about what's important 4 years from now. Again, this is probably our 4th or 5th time covering all of this, and I'd rather use the time that allotted to answer questions of the board and the public regarding the finances.
Board, any questions? Any patrons have questions?
Hearing none, I'll turn it over to Dennis to speak about any of the upcoming legal matters, and thank you all and enjoy 1 year's worth of low tax break.
I do have one question, and I'm not sure if it's for you or for Dennis, but I'll go ahead and ask it now. In the bond resolution, those are all maximum amounts in there,
Yeah,
up to and including. At what point do we get to lock in the rate on this bond?
So that's a great question. Those are all maximum parameters. So the $11.5 million is the ceiling of where this board can go. And if the project comes back to be higher than that, you would have to make the determination of what to cut. But you can go lower, you can't go higher. We did the same thing with the interest rate. We don't know, we don't have a magic 8-ball to decide, so we can't lock in the rates until we go what is called pricing to the investors. And we are looking at doing that sometime in February, so anything can happen between now and then. We still feel that rates should not be moving dramatically, but there are things going on in the economy, such as the Fed is going to stop buying federal bonds, which is going to start making rates go up. So if you haven't refinanced your house or your car, you should have done it a little bit ago when rates were so low. Not to get too nerdy here, but most likely the long-term rates will be the first ones to go up, because if everything goes up at once, it creates a recession if you do a U-curve. So rates will start going up on the long end, meaning that the coupons on the 20 years, 15 years might be a little bit higher. What does that mean is that we don't expect it to go up that much, but they'll go up slightly. We still think we'll be sub 3%. I feel fairly confident that we'll still be somewhere in the mid 2s to no higher than 3% if things are, unless something radically bad happens. I I can't tell you what that would be, but we expect it to be sub 3%. We did put 4% on there just in case, but that is just our worst case scenario because we don't know.
And you said that will happen in February is when we can lock the rate.
That's when we're expecting to go to pricing. Is that correct, Dennis, on the timeline? I think we have it. Or is it January? I don't have the time. So March 3rd is when we would go to pricing, so that's when we will officially lock the rates. That day, the bonds will be sold, pre-sold to investors at a locked rate on that day.
Okay, thank you. Any other board questions? Hearing of patrons? Going once? Okay.
Just ditto what Oscar said. I think we've been over this subject legally tonight following the public hearing. Just for the members of the public here and patrons who are listening, the board will be asked to consider a preliminary determination resolution which will lock in the parameters that Oscar just mentioned and that have flexibility in them for slight increases in the rate. After that, a legal notice will be published that we'll work with Mark and Dave and Kyle to get published in the papers. We'll start a 30-day period. Once we get through that 30-day period, assuming a petition hasn't been received, we'll move on to kind of the final steps to get the rating on the bond issue and to a pricing in early March and closing mid-March.
Any questions?
I mean, the March 3rd date, is that a legal date? Or is that just the date you guys need 30 days to put things together? Because I am antsy about the rate, to be honest.
Yeah. So it could be earlier than March 3rd. So a lot of this keys off of when we publish this notice, which we've been sticking to the schedule so far, and we kind of checked this off. You all have seen the timetable. So the 30-day objective period will end February 25th. We have a March 3rd date in there, so we've given a little bit of time, and I don't have the calendar in front of me, but it may be that February 25th is a Wednesday or a Thursday. Bonds don't price typically on Fridays or Mondays. They're just not good days for the market. And there'll be a couple days to go out and market, but it'll be right around that time.
Any other questions, comments? Mr. Whelan?
I'll just say I want to reiterate, when the board took on this project after the going through the strategic plan process, one of their big priorities is to make sure that we don't, raise the tax rate on our community members, as well as we did not want to limit what future boards were able to do. And so we obviously could have asked for more money for this building project, but they really wanted to keep those things in mind. As a taxpayer, looking at the fact that about 6 months ago they could have gone about buying or bonding more money to keep that tax rate consistent. They weren't through their strategic plan yet, and so I appreciate them not, just going ahead and bonding for the sake of bonding. They were waiting until they got a plan in place, and so yeah, we will see a little tax decrease the next year, but then it'll return to around the current rate for future years. So, I do respect the fact that that's the direction we went, and also the fact that they wanted to get in place a true strategic plan instead of racing through it, just to get it on the books as soon as possible. So that's all I have to say.
School board comments? Okay, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn this 10/28 predetermination hearing. So Mr. Booker, Mr. Brubaker, roll call vote. Mr. Booker?
Yes.
Mr. Brubaker?
Yeah.
Mr. Esposette?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Hensley? Myself, yes. So with that, we will move to opening the regular board meeting. Emergency additions and deletions, we have 7.7, which will be the preliminary, it will be to consider the preliminary determination resolution and approve. Now it'll be 7.7 on your agenda. Motion to approve the agenda is amended. Any other? You got anything else?
No.
Entertain a motion to approve the agenda. Mr. Shaw, Mr. Brubaker, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, got our agenda set. Mr. Whelan? Oh, I'm sorry. Hearing of patrons, agenda items only. Okay, Mr. Whelan?
Okay, we do have a presentation tonight, and so I want to introduce Dr. Lippy. He'll introduce our presenters.
Thanks for letting us present a little bit on it. It's actually was a kind of an initiative from last school year, and we kind of were looking for the right time. We gave kids lots of heads up, and unfortunately, no kids came. And so I know he's been after them, but a lot of them had work schedules. There were some finals some kids had, and but you're going to get to see them featured in the video. So what we've got here is the We the Many project. The We the Many project is a program that funds artists' residencies in rural areas to help challenge and expand the idea of what it means to be a Midwesterner. Through the creative exchange of voices, cultures, and ideas. You'll get kind of see what these kids were able to participate in last spring, pretty much, right? Late winter? Late winter, early spring. Theater artist Ana Velasquez, who's with us online, was one of 3 artists chosen to work with Midwestern students, which we feel very fortunate when you think of the entire Midwest and all the thousands of schools in the Midwest, all across the tri-state and more. We were one of 3 schools. I would tell you that it was blind luck, but it's not blind luck that we were chosen. But why we were chosen, because we've got Honeywell, one of the just absolute premier venues in our county. And I know that's probably what got us eyes on this area. So we appreciate Honeywell for helping us, gather that interest in allowing our kids to have this type of experience. Speaking a little bit on Anna worked with representatives from the Honeywell Foundation in Wabash and utilized her unique skills as a director to give our Manchester students an unprecedented experience last school year. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Robert Weber, and we've got our 3 of our Robert Weber and Dawn Walker. Of course, they're our EL partnership team that works under our instructional staff, and then our Honeywell representatives, Brian Krushwitz, Kathy Gatchell, and Christy Unger, and then we've got Anna joining us via Zoom. Welcome, Anna. And I will turn it over a little bit to you. I think you really had your hands probably more in this than anybody else. We greatly appreciate your leadership in this. And then we also have the video that we can share as well, Anna, when you're ready.
Hi everyone, can you hear me? Is it fine?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I'm sorry, was that a yes?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm so excited to be back. I just met with the students, some of the students yesterday. We had a great conversation and very excited to, start the program again. So I'm not sure what was shared, but this program, when I was invited to join, it was created for students who come from families, households where English is not their first language, and they come from parents who are undocumented. And living in these households and living in a place like North Manchester, it can be very challenging where there's a very small population who can relate to that experience. So we wanted to create program so that students can feel encouraged and safe to talk about their experiences and meet other students who also have the same background, and also to come together as a group so that they can go ahead and share artistically what it is to live in North Manchester. And I think the first time around it was pretty successful. We had great feedback, we had great support, and what we want to do the second time around is invite more students, and not only students who are Mexican descent, but all students who are interested in understanding what it's like to live in North Manchester with that kind of specific background, but also sit together and ask questions that maybe they weren't comfortable asking, things that they might want to know but don't know how to ask. And so what we're wanting is to invite more students to be part of the program so that we can bring more awareness. I think we're living in a super strange, divided, scary time, and we need the students to work together and support each other now more than ever. You are able to hear me? I hope so.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, great. I can't see you, so I'm not sure.
Oh, sorry,
So Anna, we're gonna go ahead, if you can hear me, we're gonna go ahead and show some of the video now at this time.
Oh, great. There we go. You haven't seen the video, okay.
We have not. I mean, they,
Oh, okay.
We the Many is going to be something that stays with us for many years. I mean, we want to continue the work we've created in the schools, but more than that, is We the Many has created reverberations throughout our greater community that I think is something that is truly something to be celebrated. For example, we have a community-wide committee that is working on issues related to how do we become a more welcoming community? How do we do things in our community that really creates an environment that people want to come and live regardless of their background. And then also at our board level, at the Honeywell Foundation, we have really started to work more closely into the work of equity and inclusion and to really do that work intentionally so that we, as our organization, make sure that we're doing all the things we can to be as welcoming as possible and to make sure that we have places at the table for all voices. The Honeywell Foundation was approached in 2019 by Arts Midwest, which is a very...
sorry about that.
Two communities, one is in South Dakota and one is in Iowa, so we felt really excited, you know, to be the only in Indiana and really the only in this part of the Midwest. And so we were excited to be selected, and then once we got more information about the program, we thought, wow, what a great opportunity, because the main objective of this grant was to provide stories, and stories of what life is like as a Midwesterner.
We can stop here. Okay, first note, las sillas, cuando lleguen, you gotta do this with style, right? Con estilo, so tienes que hacer. And I don't want to hear this.
So, you know, that sounded simple enough, or at least interesting enough, certainly something we could facilitate. Unlike a lot of grant programs, this particular one was really interesting because a lot of grants will come with a very detailed list of this is what you need to do, here are your guidelines, and it really kind of guides you along the way. This one was really interesting because this one really wanted you as the organization to lean into your community and talk to your community to try to really determine what would those next steps look like with this grant. The only other requirement was that it was going to be a residency, so we would have a resident artist come and be a part of this. And the artist needed to be a performing artist and a performing artist of color. And again, we thought, this is great. You know, we're a performing arts organization. You know, this is a great fit. This is something that works well within what we do. And so we started this journey nearly 2 years ago, and of course the pandemic has created some interesting bumps along the way. But what we have come away with 2 years later is what I would say maybe nothing short of remarkable, because we've learned things we didn't know we needed to learn.
I'm sad that the program's almost over, but today was a good day, so.
I'm sad that I won't be here next year.
You're
You join here. You'll be here in my house. No, I'm not.
Not mine.
I'm excited.
Okay, that's Izzy. Izzy, come join us. Come stand over here.
I'm sad that it's ending, but I'm excited for what's to come.
Okay.
I'm gonna miss this class senior this year too, but not too bad.
Okay. Yeah, I'm the same. I'm feeling excited and I'm also sad, but I think it's great that we're here and we're going to create something, okay?
We've asked questions maybe that we didn't know needed to be asked, and we've certainly been on a journey that perhaps we didn't know we need to take. And so we've been very excited to come away from this time to have an opportunity to learn more about truly what life is like as a Midwesterner, but perhaps not just from folks that we bump into every day and people that we are, you know, kind of our go-to patrons that come to a number of our shows, or the students that we serve in our schools.
Thank you. All right.
Because this particular residency allowed us to focus specifically on an emerging population within our community, which is the Latino population, primarily in North Manchester, but also in Wabash as well. And our artist, Ana Velasquez, has worked really closely with students within these schools.
Shout. Sure, like, hey guys, let's get ready. Hey guys, let's get ready. Yeah. Okay. So quick check-in. How are you today? And let's add, what's your favorite color?
So some of the things we're doing at the Honeywell Foundation is to create a more intentional way of working within diversity, equity, and access, and to make sure that we have voices at the table that represent those underrepresented voices. So We the Many is not going to be just one grant that starts and ends. It's really a journey that we'll be on, hopefully for the rest of our organization's life, and certainly for our community as well.
This year, our district was given the opportunity to collaborate with the Honeywell Center through Arts Midwest with the We the Many program. We are so fortunate for the opportunity to be able to have this collaboration.
Hola, compa.
Through this project, our students have had the opportunity to explore their culture, explore their language, and have the opportunity in the school setting to show classmates and family members how important their culture is.
Remember, we need someone to come. All right, here we go. All right, everyone follow me, and we have to stay quiet.
What is it? Well, neither is ours.
Hi, my name is Karen Jimenez. I am a senior here at Manchester Junior Senior High School. I was given the opportunity for my internship to work with Mrs. Screeden, who is the EL director, which is what I will be going for in college. I was also given the chance through my internship to work with Anna. She has started the We the Many project, which is something we have been working on this semester. Not only has this project affected me and impacted my life, but has also impacted the students' lives.
Come on, how do you guys think about the Estrella Theater Group? Yeah. I like that? All right, we're gonna come in. All right, we're gonna say Estrella Theater Group 1, 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Estrella Theater Group!
During the We the Many project, I've seen many of the students take chances that they normally wouldn't have taken. I've stepped back and sat midway through the auditorium and have let them discover each other and discover things about themselves that maybe they wouldn't have done if I was closer. I have seen them open up to Anna in ways they would not have opened up to me. I've seen them share things that they probably would not have shared in a regular classroom setting. I've seen them create things that from their past that they've experienced here at school and maybe outside of school, and I've seen them share them in a unique artistic way. I think that many of them are actually speaking more English than they would have in the regular English classroom because they're feeling they can take more chances with their friends rather than the teacher looking at them and deciding if it's correct or not. They're just taking chances with their friends.
Anna helped me not to be shy. It was fun. Yeah.
Such a great person, and she always brought such great energy to our class every day. I would always look forward to being able to go and practice with her and be able to see her and do whatever she had planned with us because I knew it was always going to be amazing.
With the incident that happened at the basketball court, from the basketball court, we're going to have you have your moment over here.
So I was really curious about the show. Like, my friends were in it, and I kind of just wanted to like experience what they were like doing. I feel like the program helped me build stronger relationships with like everyone and get closer with them.
One thing I think the group gave for me and a bunch of the people that were also in it was a chance to express ourselves with our ethnicity and all the things that are part of our lives, such as certain school experiences with teachers and how we feel about current events going on, such as Black Lives Matter and stuff like that.
What are you doing? Yeah, you. What are you doing? Come to the front of my desk now. How many times do I have to remind you to stand up during the pledge? Why don't you do it? Get out of my class. Go to the office.
I just want to say in the end, thank you to anyone that helped her set up everything that she did for us, and thank you to her especially and to the program that she's a part of. And I hope we can see her again next year.
I'd really like to take this time to thank We the Many and Anna and the people at Honeywell. I hope you consider us in the future, and we have a lot of people who would really enjoy to have the program.
Hey, Anna, I just thank you. I appreciate you a lot.
I had a lot of fun with the program at Manchester, and I hope that we can have something like this next year.
Anna, did you want to have any closing remarks? I just want to thank you guys again so much for giving us this opportunity. Our kids were so proud of the production. So, I mean, they've just beamed when we talked to them during the school day about it.
She's muted.
You're muted.
I think you're on mute.
Okay.
There you go.
I was just saying that watching this is making me really emotional. So I'm just really excited to work with the students that I worked with last program and to meet the new students. And I'm just really excited for the work that we're going to create this time around.
Okay, well, thank you again. Appreciate you being with us through Zoom. So, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
This is such a beautiful, beautiful project. Thank you so much for everybody becoming a part of this. Just using the magic of performing arts to unlock so much is just amazing. So thank you so much for all your dedication and work, and I hope we can continue this in the future. Is there any thoughts about involving MES or those students as well in the project? Has there been any thought about that?
With the way the grant came about, it had very little guidelines, and we actually were the ones who kind of decided to work with the schools because the school programs are always so strong. And so when we worked with Anna, her background was more as with high school students and kind of older students, junior high school, but I mean, there's nothing to say that we couldn't. It's been primarily a matter of the funding involved. And so we received a grant last year, which was amazing, and we're really excited we actually got a renewal this year to be able to continue it. And we have a commitment to continue it.
Awesome.
But trying to figure out the scale moving forward would be the biggest question.
So,
Thank you.
so one of the interesting things, again, sometimes not opportunity knocks up, it's kind of almost by accident. Karen Jimenez, who is going to Manchester University to study EL, and she's on a must-hire list for us. We've all talked about it. And Amy got a hold of her, and she's now currently one of our school employees while she's working through college. So, you know, she's down at MES. She was one of the girls that stood up and talked. It was Karen, and just fantastic, dynamic individual. And so maybe she might be our connection down there with MES if that's something we do want to venture in. So,
thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. So, to go back to your question about the elementary school, one of the other things for us at Honeywell that came out of this experience was our cultural immersion student days. And so this year we've added 2. And your students were able, your MES students, were able to come to the first one, which featured Sonos Indigo. And they are also coming to the
Thank you so much to everybody. This is amazing.
And I just want to continue on with that. You know, the Honeywell Center does a lot with educational outreach. We're incredibly fortunate to have them in our county because, like they said, I mean, this is a grant, and then it's their determination how to utilize that grant, and to include Manchester Community Schools students is incredible. So thank you, Brian, Christy, and Kathy, for all the work, and your teams, because I know it's not just you three who are working on this. You know, I also want to thank Mr. Weber, Ms. Walker for the work that they have continued to do. And then Anna, of course, you know, welcome to Manchester. It's a little different than Chicago, but, you know, I appreciate all the work you did with our students. You know, Manchester is a more diverse community than it was, you know, 20 years ago, and we do need to be intentional about making sure that we're inclusive. So thank you for all the work you did and the time you put into invested in our students.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, I'm going to apologize to the people watching at home. That was my misstep. I should have asked the speakers to move to the podium. We're live streaming the meeting, and there's nothing here to tell me we're live streaming the meeting, and I forgot to ask the folks that were speaking and answering Mr. Booker's questions to go to the podium, so I apologize for that. And with that, we don't have any recognition tonight, so we'll move to the financial report. And since our financial officer is feeling under the weather, I'll turn it over to Mr. Whelan.
Yeah, and the financials are in your board packet, and I encourage you to, you know, reach out to Mrs. Emmel, and really at the next meeting she'll go over this one and for the next month's as well. So if you do have any questions about those, please contact her. Yes.
Okay, at this time I'd entertain a motion to approve the financial report.
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Esposette, Mr. Brubaker second. And we don't have anybody to ask the questions of tonight, so if you have any, you can contact Mrs. Emmel. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consent items, you have in your packet the minutes and the regular claims, prepaid claims, and payroll claims. We didn't have any grants this month. We have donations. Mr. Booker, could I get you to read the donations, please?
Sure. Happy to. Donation of $4,100.10 to the MJ and to the high school boys basketball program from various donors. Donation of $250 to the MCS Health and Wellness Program from an anonymous donor. Donation of $119.88 to Manchester Junior High Cheerleading Program for 8th grade pom-poms from Kelly DeLauder bail bonds. Donation of $1,200 to MJHS Boys Basketball Program from McKee Mortuary. Donation of $185 to the MJSHS Drama Program from various donors. Collected at the November 4th performance of Little Women. Donation of $400 to the high school softball program from anonymous donor. Donation of $500 to the high school band program from anonymous donor. Donation of $500 to the high school choir program from anonymous donor. Donation of $500 to the high school drama program from anonymous donor. And donation of $500 to the high school science Olympiad program from an anonymous donor. Thank you so much for all of your donations.
Thank you, Mr. Booker. We have no facility rentals for this month. This time I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items. Mr. Hensley?
I'll second.
Mr. Booker second. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. Okay, recommendations for approval on personnel. Under employment for certified staff, 7.111. We have Xavier. Boy, I hope I don't butcher this up. Sabellero. Robert Hall for maternity sub. Sandra, help me out here.
I think it's Haraguchi.
Okay. Catherine Shoemaker. And then on ECA staff, we have Riley Dimitri as a volunteer girls wrestling coach. Cody Thompson is a volunteer baseball assistant coach. Ray Hauser is a unified sports assistant. Nate Birch, a unified sports assistant. Erica Vogel, unified sports director. Resignations, we have certified and classified staff. Jamin Burnworth, science teacher at the high school. Caitlin Andrich, paraprofessional. ECA staff, we have Melissa West, who's resigning as a varsity volleyball coach. Reassignment 7.13, we have Andrew Chinworth to a 4-7 teacher to cover maternity leave. 7.14, retirement, Dan Hartog, MES custodian at 45 years. Before we vote on this, Mr. Whelan, did you want to make a comment on, or an explanation on Mr. Chinworth?
Yeah, actually I have comments along the way, several here. So first of all, I'd like to welcome everybody who were approving for employment. You know, special thanks to, you know, the Ray Hauser, Nate Birch, and Erica Vogel. We've been offering unified athletics for 2 years now, and they've done that free of charge. So, I mean, they've been volunteers. We just added that to our collective bargaining agreement, so we're able to actually help compensate them for their time. So thank you for all the work they've done with, you know, adding unified sports to us. I'd also like to, you know, thank Mr. Burnworth for all of his outstanding years of teaching along the way. You know, Melissa West has done great with volleyball. The reassignment for Mr. Chinworth, this is a temporary move at this time. We have, Mr. Chinworth has been teaching 2 classes at the junior senior high school, and then 4/7 of his day he's been teaching STEM at MIS. And so right now we do have multiple leaves in the science department at the high school, and so we're looking at reassigning him for the remainder of one of the maternity leaves, which should be in February. So this is a temporary reassignment for that. And then the last item on there, retirement of Dan Hartog. You know, Mr. Hartog was a custodian back when I was in school, so he's served our community schools for a very long time, and, you know, well-respected man. So we will have him back for a better celebration at some point, but you know, it's just impressive to have someone who's been of service, you know, for basically as long as I've been alive, to our community schools and the things he's done for kids. So just want to.
Okay, I'd entertain a motion for the recommendations for approval from 7.1 to 7.14. Mr. Hensley. Mr. Brubaker, second. Comment, discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Approval of the school calendar, 7.2, Mr. Whelan.
Okay, so I had sent a survey out to our stakeholders just in regards to our winter break, based on when the holidays fall this coming school year. You know, schools were going in different directions. The results came back in favor of the second option from both our faculty and staff and from the parent side. So the calendar that I'm recommending is, you know, everything's laid out there, and we do have our winter break would be starting on the 22nd and ending on January the 4th. And a big part of this, we have had parents reaching out to us because they're looking forward and trying to make plans for that break, and so we wanted to get this in front of them as soon as possible. One thing that I'm just going to ask that you approve it as is, but know that I'm going to do some further you know, kind of fact-finding. We do not have parent-teacher conferences yet included on here. There's been quite a bit of discussion on the best format for parent-teacher conferences. And so I'm looking to seek more information before I make a recommendation on when those are. Currently, we do those 2 back-to-back evenings or separated evenings, but I want to find out if that's limiting to some parents based on their work schedules. And so I want to find out more information. You know, parent-teacher conferences are the whole point is making us available to the parents who have questions or concerns. And so we want to make sure that we're meeting the needs of those families. So at some point I am going to, hopefully at the January meeting, come back with a proposal of when we want to include those parent-teacher conferences and finalize that. But I thought it was fair to our families to get the main breaks on their calendars so that they can start preparing accordingly.
I entertain a motion to approve the school calendar as presented with the notation that we may be modifying it. Mr. Brubaker. Mr. Shaw. Any questions, discussion?
I did want to take note on the May month. There's a blue for Memorial Day there. We don't have school on that date anyway, so I didn't know if the blue needs to be there. But
thank you, Mr. Bucher.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of a carryover. Before there were times where we had to tack days on to the end of the school year, and they just wanted to, I think it was indicating that we would not, even if we had to add days for whatever reason, we would not have school on that day. So, but I can correct that piece.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay, 6-0. Uniform conflict of interest disclosure statement, Mr. Whelan.
That should be in your board packet. And it's, Mike, can you speak on?
I can take it.
Okay, you got it.
So that's for Mr. Hensley and his work he does with Heartland. It doesn't really need a board action, it just needs to be accepted by the board, so it's shown into the minutes.
So if I can throw out a shameless plug, there's a Lean Six Sigma class at Hartland teaching these kids how to do advanced problem solving. Right now, our corporate, I usually have business partners who we want projects, so I can't do a call back from them for some reason, probably, this. But any organizations out there that need some help, have some problems they want to solve, including schools, manufacturers, or anybody in any industry who would gladly, if you've got anything we can work on, we'd gladly work with you. So thanks for anybody in advance that would help us train your future workforce and problem solving.
I'd entertain a motion to accept Mr. Hensley's uniform conflict of interest disclosure statement. That's what I said, right?
You don't have, there's no vote that's required on it.
Okay.
It just shows that he gave to the board and it's been accepted.
Okay.
By the school.
All right. Approval of amended pay rates for cafeteria staff, Mr. Whelan.
Yeah, so and board, this is in your packet as well. The Cafeteria Fund is a separate fund from all of our others, so they are completely independent. And when I had met with Ms. Landis several times on this, and I apologize, I made some errors when I came to propose all of the pay raises from the last time. Our cafeteria staff, because it's a completely different account, they've gone multiple years of not receiving any raise, so they were lagging behind more than some of the others, and so we were looking at doing a $1 increase on each one of them, as well as raising the current base rates for each one of those. So that was an error on my part, but I wanted to look at amending that and making that correction for moving forward.
Entertain a motion for the approval of the amended pay rates.
motion to approve this.
Somebody was talking.
Robert.
I make a motion to approve it.
Okay, thank you. Second? Any questions, discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Hold on, I do have a, so is that enough? I guess is what I'm asking, is service stable?
It
As
is.
far as employment? Okay.
Yes, and in all honesty, we have an unbelievable cafeteria staff, so even when we weren't able to do pay raises in the past, and some of those employees have been here forever. They love kids, and so we appreciate all the work that they do. So, yeah.
Any other comments? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. Okay, next one's approval of a surveying contract with John Stevens. This is part of the project moving forward to get some surveying work of the school property done. We received, the F&F committee received quotes from Garmin Miller, and our recommendation is, along with Mr. Whelan, is to approve the contract with John Stevens of Wabash. So.
Mr. Whelan, do you have anything to add?
No, this was, when we looked over the proposals, this, in my opinion, was definitely the best option for us, and that was supported by our architect as well. So.
Entertain a motion to approve the contract with John Stevens, registered land surveyor.
So moved. I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Shaw, Mr. Hensley, comments, questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. Mr. Whelan, ESSER funds.
Yeah, so board, you'll find in your packets, a while back, we basically put a freeze on the ESSER 3 funding. The hope was that once the new superintendent and business manager was in place, and we could review kind of where we were with ESSER monies, and then look toward what the best expenses would be. And so, we've done a pretty good job about kind of figuring out where we are with each one of those funds, and now it's time to start looking for the best uses for the remaining funds. So the things I'm proposing up here were already part of the ESSER 3, what was brought to you guys before, and what was also sent to and accepted by the state. And so when I reached out, I worked with the administrators at the different buildings to identify what those greatest needs were at this time. And so for STEM supplies and equipment throughout the district, $3,000. Instructional furniture at MIS to include podiums, whiteboards, charging station, $22,000. Instructional furniture at MES, including podiums, chairs and desks for pre-K and K, $15,000. And then technology, and this is district-wide, but mostly focused on the junior, senior high school. We do have Promethean boards at our other buildings. But the technology's lagging a little bit at the junior, senior high school, and that might not be the best option for them. Replacing projectors might be, big screen TVs might be. That's something that we're going to kind of explore what our best options are based on the need of that teacher, or those individual teachers. So what the approach I'd like to do, since this was all already included in ESSER 3, these are things that I think, are very fundamentally sound and will meet the needs of our students. But what I'd like to do is actually work on amending ESSER 1 and 2 to take as many of those expenses out of 1 and 2 to help close those out. Those each their deadlines for when we can spend those come up earlier. So, if the September 2022, then September 2023, and then September 2024, I think are the dates. So we'd like to use up 1 and 2 before we get to 3, because 3 we do have more time. So even though those are written into 3, and some of those expenses might need to be coming out of 3, our first approach would be to amend 1 and 2 to expense them that way first. So I'm open for questions, or if you need the recommendation first.
Yeah. I'd entertain a motion to approve the ESSER expenditures as recommended by the superintendent.
So moved.
Mr. Shaw?
I'll second.
Mr. Bucher? On discussion, just want to clarify, we froze 1.3 million, we're not getting into that. We're gonna try and do the 1 and 2 first, and then that 430,000 that was already approved would, is that the ESSER 3 that we're talking about?
It should, so some of this would fall under the part that you froze. So it's possible, if we're not able to amend those others enough, that some of this would go into the ESSER 3 funds. But once again, all of this was originally part of it. And after talking with the administrators, these are the greatest needs at this time. So I think they're justified in expense.
Any other questions from the board or comments?
Sure. So the way this started out was kind of a, not very good. So we've got updated lists. We said they're going to be living documents. Are those lists updated? And are they available? And do we have a handle on the funds now? Like 670 reimbursement out of 2.
Okay.
I know time is not here, but
yes. So I would say that we have a much better handle on it. I mean, I wouldn't have come to you with talking about ad expenses until we did. So there's a couple things we're still looking at, but at the same time, we're well under what our allowed expenses are going to be. As far as your living document, I'm going to have to check into that because I'm not sure what you guys have access to be completely honest with you. So I'm going to have to look into that. But that was something that as Mrs. Emmel presents the financial piece, that will be included on a monthly basis where those particular grants are, because it is a large amount of money that we're talking about. So
then I thought we did approve a certain amount off the 3 already, like $44,000 or something like that.
We got 1.7 million, and we approved a list, and then it became apparent that it wasn't a very accurate list, so 430,000 was approved, which I think this stuff carries, and 1.3 million was frozen until the new superintendent, business managers, and the administrators could all get together and go through that list and bring it back for an amendment, because we sent a list to the state and it got approved. If we're going to amend it, that's what we said we were going to do. We were going to amend it, but they were going to, and I don't think they've had time to do that. Is what I'm hearing, right?
I wouldn't work. We can. Yeah, I would. I'm not going to take the time to amend all that and send it to the state and then bring it back and it get rejected. So I'd like the approval of the funds, and then we'll work to place them in the places that. So if you have questions about what those expenses are, then I'd be happy to talk about those.
I just like to see that list updated.
Sure.
If we could do that. And the second thing on technology, before we kind of, and I know these are needs, and I think does this address Tommy's list that he's had in there for a few months. So again, I like to see, like in the classrooms, I like to see some standard approach to technology. I can go to about any university, pull out my laptop, hook it up, kind of what's there. I like to, just, I don't know if that's been worked on. We talked about that more than 2 years ago. You weren't here, right?
Yeah.
Just kind of bring that back up.
I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think at MES and MIS, they've made updates more recently than at the high school, and so I think it is more standardized at those buildings in regards to technology. There are some things in there, like at MIS in particular, with whiteboards and things that, outside of technology, there's other instructional tools that they are asking for as well. So,
thank you.
Tanya would like to talk. She's on there.
Okay.
I think.
She wants to try.
Yeah. There she is.
Sorry. We cannot expend these out of 1 and 2 until we have done an amendment to 1 and 2.
Okay.
So that's part of the problem. We have to do it out of 3 because that's what's been approved. And we are needing to replace, so I do want to, we've talked about getting more standardized with our technology at the junior senior high. But we do have some equipment, projectors that are needing to be replaced, and that's kind of pushing and driving our reason for wanting to go ahead and approve this.
Okay, what are you asking to approve? Are you asking us to unfreeze the 1.3 million? Or are you talking about spending the 430,000 that was already approved? Because in the 1.3 million,
Yes.
there was things that the board wasn't in favor of approving.
And when, what I'm doing right now is asking for these things. I'm not asking you to unfreeze all the other 1.3 million. This is what I'm asking for right here. If there's things we can take out of 1 and 2 through amendments, that's what we'll do, but 3 is what we're looking at, so. Yeah, I know that there were plenty of things in there that you guys weren't in favor of. That's not what I'm asking for right now.
That's all I want to make clear.
Yep.
Thank you, Tanya. Any other board questions or comments?
Yeah, what's an Ed puzzle?
Ed puzzle?
Yeah.
Okay, Ed puzzle is actually a software and it's pretty awesome. It kind of came to light during, especially through the whole e-learning time. I don't know if you've ever been required to watch a video and then you get credit for having watched the video and you turn it on and walk away. Ed Puzzle basically makes that impossible, so it freezes videos along the way and the teacher can prescribe which questions the student needs to ask, so it does require them to pay a little bit more attention and then answer some questions and then move along to help improve the learning process there. So we did have, I think it was around, it was mostly used at the high school and at MIS, but I think we had around 30 teachers who were using it. So it's something that I'm very familiar with. We used it as well, and I think it's a good thing.
So is this a subscription base?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, okay. So it's a continuing expense then, added on to?
Yes.
Will that be added on to the technology budget?
That has not been discussed yet, so we were looking at extending the license. It was something that fell within the realm of ESSER.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? Mr. Shaw? Do you have any? Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second and discussion, so I'd enter, I guess we'll just go ahead and vote to approve if somebody, so, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, passes 6-0. 7.7, you have it in your, the updated version was in your packet. We want to move forward with the project that was discussed in the 2 preliminary bond resolutions. We need to adopt the preliminary bond resolution to move forward with the project, which is 7.7. Mr. Hensley made a motion to adopt the bond resolution. Mr. Brubaker seconded. Any comments, questions?
I just want to thank all of, Dennis and Oscar for all the work they've done to put this together and continue this moving forward, so.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Okay, roll call vote. Mr. Bucher?
Yes.
Mr. Brubaker?
Yes.
Mr. Esposette?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Hensley?
Yes.
And I vote yes. So 6-0, we adopted the bond resolution. I do not have a Heartland update. Our meeting isn't until tomorrow night, so I'll update you on where we're at with the suspension of the building next month. Mr. Hensley?
We did have legislative kickoff Tuesday over in Fort Wayne for the Northeast region. Pretty interesting to talk to those. One kind of hot topic was the I don't want to put it, the politicalization of school board members. Nick, bringing up the party, I did bring up, Robert and I had a conversation on that, so there's no clear view on that. Everybody has their own opinion, basically, so look for that to kind of surface. That's really all I have for the legislative update.
This time we'll entertain public comments on any of the agenda items. Mr. Wheelan?
Okay, tell you, we're looking forward to a much-deserved break. I know that our faculty and staff has done a lot to continue to provide the best education for our students, and endured a lot of additional demands. And so I'm happy that we're able to do that. And I wish our students a good break with their families as well. I'd also, just once again say thank you to the Honeywell Center. I don't know that people outside of education know how much they do to support our educational endeavors and continue to look for ways to expand what we're doing outside of Wabash County. So that's pretty awesome. I had probably one of my biggest missteps last Friday, because Friday was Polar Express Day, and I had some phone calls concerned about whether we were going to still have Polar Express Day. So I'm glad we were able to still do that yesterday. Everything's good again. So I just, once again, I want to thank all of our faculty and staff for everything they continue to do, and wish everybody a great holiday.
Board comments?
Just a quick one. I want to thank Kyle for kind of paying attention to the cafeteria staff wage schedule and bringing that to light, and then hopefully we'll catch it. We won't go quite as long without at least considering an option for a pay increase with that group. So thank you for doing that.
Absolutely.
Anybody else?
Yeah, we the many kind of brings up a situation I had a couple of years ago, being able to work with a young student, and he was stellar through class, through the Lean Six Sigma class, and at the end of it, we were kind of having a personal conversation. He told me, this is it for me, because he was an undocumented student, and that kind of brought me out again. Remember, America's been built on immigration, and to all the kids and the other people, at times it seems like those that make themselves feel better at the expense of others, kind of get ahead. But in a way, I want every student in this school district and everyone else to realize you're more perfect than me. Your skin color, your weight, your hair, whatever you are, right? You're more perfect than me. So just that comment, and then Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everyone, to the staff and to the kids in the school.
Anybody else?
Yeah, it was a great presentation. The We the Many, thank you to everybody that was involved in that project and going forward as well. We'd love to see more of that at these board meetings. That's the most enjoyable part of it. So
I gotta say, I kind of feel guilty because, did you know about the show?
No,
I'm not sure how we missed that, but I didn't have food, so to be honest.
Anybody else? Okay, I got just a little bit here. Eric, Oscar, Dennis, your work's just starting. To the core committees, the administrators, the volunteers, the people that have been reached out to in the community. It's been 2.5 years. We finally kicked it off. It's only phase 1. Phase 2's coming. But I'd just like to thank all of you. I know how many hours and phone calls and meetings, just kind of boggles the mind. But we kicked the, kickoff is here. So, Merry Christmas. See you next year. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Hensley, Mr. Brubaker, all in favor?